The fitness space has made it really difficult for people to understand which supplements they should be taking. In this episode, I'm going to go through all of the supplements that I take, why, and why I'm actually going to get rid of some of them. Over the years, there has been a lot of different information. I started the gym nearly 15 years ago. From when I started out, supplementation has gone from basically the Stone Age to modern day, and it has got a lot better, and will tell you that. Protein powders used to taste really powdery and just really not pleasant. They weren't great. Some of them were, quite a lot of them were really bad. These days, it's a lot better, but there's still that confusing information out there. Welcome to the Big Lad Podcast. I'm your host, George. Let's get straight into it. As I say, there's a lot of confusion these days, especially with things like TikTok Shop, when you've got influencers just pushing anything for a discount code and some commission. In this episode, I'm going to tell you what I take, why I take it, and like I say, why I'm potentially getting rid of a couple of them just because I don't need them. We're going to start off with the absolute GOAT of supplementation, the most researched supplement ever, and that is creatine. Specifically, I take CrePure, which is, I believe it's German. It is just a really pure version of creatine. It's slightly more expensive than the standard stuff, but it's just that little bit better, and that's why I take it. You'd probably be fine with just standard creatine monohydrate. I would be careful on this one because there's the rise of gummies and things like that these days. James Smith did a really good piece on testing some of them. So a lot of companies out there were claiming higher volumes of creatine than there was actually in them. With powder, I don't think there's that big of an issue with them. But yeah, obviously just get them from a reputable source. But why it's number one, it improves your strength, your power, and then that can obviously lead to lean body mass. There's also been studies recently on the cognitive benefits as a nootropic. It can actually help under sleep deprivation as well. It's apparently got some neuroprotective potential. It's relatively cheap in terms of supplementation. These days, protein powders have gone off the charts. Like, compared to when I started taking protein powder, they've at least doubled just from COVID times. And I know this because I work with My Protein, and the voucher that I get each month doesn't go anywhere near as far as it used to. I will tell you that. But if you do want some discount on My Protein, help a brother out. Use GW Fit at checkout for discount, and I get a little bit of commission off the back of that. And I know I've just had a go at TikTokers, but I'm not peddling some random little gummies. It is legit stuff. I use My Protein. I have done probably for at least 10 years. But the dose, so this is where it comes down to it. So a lot of people talk about the 3 or 5 grams a day, which is, yeah, okay. You start to then see the neuroprotective benefits at higher doses around the sort of 10 to 15 gram mark. Now, I'm not telling people to just go and just take 10, 15 grams of creatine, because if you're not used to creatine as well, it can cause some potential gut problems. So just build yourself into it. The whole thing of loading up is a load of rubbish. You don't need to do that. If you just take your standard 5 grams a day, then you'll be fine. You will saturate your muscles over time. I heard some evidence from, I think it was Rhonda Patrick the other day. So the way the body works is it will feed the muscles first because they are very sort of demanding. Obviously, if you've got a lot of muscle as well, potentially take more. I tend to take slightly higher than the recommended doses because I believe recommended doses are basically based on like an average person, which is like 5'10" and something like 10 stone. I'm 6'4" and 17 stone. So I take slightly higher anyway on most things. But the way the body works is it will feed the muscles first, and then if there's anything left, it will then go to the brain. So this is why you've got to take a slightly higher dose to get the neuroprotective benefits, because it will saturate your muscles before it does anything beneficial for your brain. There's hundreds of randomized control trials on creatine. Humans obviously referenced it quite a lot for physical and cognitive performance. There's a lot of sort of research on it. It is a legit supplement. Like I said, it's cheap, safe in the long term. The only cons that you may get are water retention. This tends to be in the short term as well. So the way creatine works is it will just add a little bit more water to your muscles. It'll hold it intramuscularly. It's not fat. So if you notice maybe a pound or 2 pounds when you start taking creatine, That's generally the reason. If I could take only one supplement for the rest of my life, it'd be creatine. So as I was saying, the way creatine works is it increases phosphocreatine in the muscles and the brain. It helps regenerate ATP for bursts of effort and cellular energy. Creatine isn't just for gym bros. It's one of the best supported supplements ever studied for strength, performance, and cognitive effects. I've got my mum taking it because she's in her late 50s now. I want her to basically get in the gym, stay strong, and also if it can help her brain health as well, it's only going to help in the long run. Obviously, as you get older, one of the biggest causes of injuries are things like slips, trips, and falls. And a lot of that is down to leg strength. So I've got my mum in the gym. She's lifting weights. She's taking creatine to help her out with that as well. Number 2, obviously, the standard one, the one that most people start on, which is whey protein. I specifically take Impact Whey Isolate from my protein. And again, this is because Impact Whey Isolate, it's again slightly more pure than the just standard whey protein. Again, it's slightly more expensive, but for me, I like it better as well. I find it mixes a little bit better than the standard proteins. I haven't had them for years, but I've also heard studies on whey isolate being really good for people who have, again, stomach issues with things like lactose intolerance and just general issues with sort of taking in protein. I've heard it's a lot better on your stomach. So if you are someone that's sort of not taking protein powders because of stomach issues, then maybe try whey isolate out. Obviously, really good way to get a decent amount of protein into your diet. I personally, for probably the last 5 or 6 years, my breakfast has been shreddies with a protein shake poured on it. So I'm getting, with the milk, roughly 65 grams of protein first thing in the morning. I always say this to everyone, anyone that's struggling to get protein in the diet, look at your breakfast, because generally that seems to be a place where not a lot of people get a lot of protein in. So whereas me, I am getting in near enough a third of my protein intake in my first meal. So again, dose can be subjective to what your goals are. There's the sort of guidance of like 1.6 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. People also do it based on lean body weight. Obviously, not a lot of people know what the lean body mass is. So going off just total body weight and maybe taking a little bit off could be a starting point. But protein powder is a really good way just to give that extra boost with not a lot of calories. Another thing, if you are struggling to get protein in and you're looking for foods that are high protein, because there's a lot of these in the supermarkets these days and then just not high protein. I think I was in Aldi a couple of weeks ago, picked up a pack of nuts. I think it was cashew nuts. It said on it, high protein or like source of protein. Now, nuts are categorically a source of fat more than they are protein. Just look at the calories for fat versus protein. 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. 1 gram of protein is 4 calories. There's a hell of a lot more fat than there is protein in nuts. But that's beside the point. If you are looking for something that is high protein, if you essentially get the protein value in grams, times it by 10, and if that is close to the amount of calories or higher than the number of calories, that is a high protein food. So, for instance, say you've got something that is 100 calories, it's got 11 grams of protein in, you times that number by 10, you've got 110. That 110 is higher than 100 calories, which means it's a good source of protein for the amount of calories you're taking in. Obviously, protein supports muscle retention and growth. It's convenient, it's easily digested, and I guess it's a cost-effective protein source. I think a kilo of protein, you're looking about 40, 50 quid now, which for me is outrageous compared to what it used to be, but it's just the way the world's gone. But yeah, you can get roughly 20 servings of 2 scoops. It's not that bad, I guess. One thing to think if you start taking protein powder is that it's not just magic. It's not going to do something crazy. You do need to put the work in the gym. It's not just going to grow muscle out of nowhere. And it's also a bit redundant if your diet is not nailed already. You can't out-train a bad diet. So yeah, you've got to look at it as a pyramid. At the bottom, you need the structure to the gym. You need a routine, you need good rest, sleep, recovery, you've got your diet, and then higher up the list, you've got supplementation. If you've not got the things below sorted, you've not got that base ready to then take the extra sort of 1% that you get from supplements. Number 3, this is a big one for someone that if you live in the UK where we don't get a lot of sunlight, and this is vitamin D3 and K2. Now I've stacked these together specifically, and you'll understand why as I go through this one. Most UK adults are deficient in vitamin D, and that is mainly because we don't get enough sunlight in the UK. Vitamin D then impacts things like testosterone, which impacts your mood, your immune function, bone health. Typical recommendations tend to be around the 1000 to 2000 IU. For larger males or people with low sun exposure, 2000 to 4000 IU. And then vitamin K2 is around 90 to 200 micrograms. Now, the science says that there's strong observational and interventional data. Rhonda Patrick frequently highlights vitamin D deficiency. The pros are that there's just broad systemic benefits. It's, again, really cheap. Cheaper than protein powder, probably potentially even cheaper than creatine as well, actually. I don't know the prices at the moment. I couldn't tell you. Some of the cons are that they are fat soluble, so don't megadose them blindly. One of the other cons is that you need a blood test to know whether you are deficient in vitamin D or not. I personally did a Thriver blood test, I think it was about a year ago. You essentially choose them like a shopping basket of which tests you want to do. I selected vitamin D. Now, at the time, I was supplementing vitamin D, and my vitamin D levels were very high, which was fine because it was in the recommended zone. But the doctor's comment was that, you know, like if you are supplementing vitamin D, these are sort of the guidelines. And I think I was taking slightly over the guideline at the time, but not by much. I think I was taking 5000 IU. I was taking gummies at the time, and they were 1000 IU each, I think. And I was taking 5 of them because, again, the recommendation was 4000, but I took a little bit more because I'm bigger. Obviously, if you're going to do any of this, speak to a doctor or at least get a test. But yeah, if you are in the UK and you don't supplement vitamin D, you are probably running a deficit by default. Unless you are maybe on sunbeds and things like that, or just unless you are some sort of person that can take in a ridiculous amount of sun from the cloud. I don't know. But the reason why I stack K2 with vitamin D3 is because it helps direct the calcium into the bones and not your arteries. Though most research on this combo is mechanistic rather than large randomized control studies. So if your vitamin D status is low, as many in the UK are, supplementing makes a measurable physiological difference. Like I said, it has a big impact on testosterone, especially if you're a man. Low testosterone is something that has only been becoming more prevalent in the years. I saw like some graph on Instagram or something the other day, and it was like the average testosterone of a 30-year-old male now is the same as a 60-year-old man's back in like 1960 or something like that. So we've got 30-year-old men walking around with the testosterone of a 60-year-old man, which is not good. Number 4, omega-3s. So I take omega 369 from My Protein again. I take this because it helps with inflammation control, cardiovascular health, brain function, and the dose that you should be aiming for is around 1 to 2 grams of combined EPA and DHA. So before you go buying omega-3s, just check the label, see what's in there, because a lot of blends can underdose, and there's a lot of just cheap crap out there, so do check first. The science shows that there's strong cardiovascular and cognitive evidence for improvement. There are mixed results for muscle growth, but good for recovery. Now, I don't think anyone ever takes omega-3s for muscle growth anyway. So pros, broad health support. They're especially useful if you have low oily fish intake as well. So if you're someone that doesn't like fish, or you just don't get a lot in your diet, these can be like a safety net. Again, cons, oxidation risk, the quality of what you're getting matters. They can just go off. 369 blends often include unnecessary omega-6 and 9. So omega-3 is the most important one. But look at that combination of EPA and DHA. It will say it on the label, and I'm pretty sure, I'm 99% sure the My Protein one does. Omega-3s are biologically anti-inflammatory and essential fats that your body can't make. So there's some benefits that seem stronger in people with low baseline intakes of oily fish or high triglycerides. And fish-based omega-3 may differ from alpha-linoleic acid plant sources. So the source that you're getting them from as well could matter. Another one that I've been taking, this is one that I take before I go to bed every night, and I don't know whether I'm getting a benefit from it or not, but when I take it, I seem to sleep better. Now, whether that's a placebo, I don't know, but if it is, it works. This is magnesium bisglycinate. So this has a moderate efficacy, and the reason why is for sleep quality, muscle relaxation, stress reduction. The dose is 200 to 400 milligrams of elemental magnesium, bisglycinate. Why I'm taking bisglycinate and not one of the other ones is because it's got good absorption and, again, low GI distress. I'm not someone that struggles with stomach issues with literally anything, so it doesn't bother me too much. But if you are someone that may get a bit of a dicky stomach when you are taking supplements, especially magnesium, this one could be the one for you. There's good evidence for sleep and deficiency correction, and Huberman often mentions magnesium for sleep as well. And if we're going to listen to anyone, why would we not listen to Andrew Huberman? He's an absolute genius. Pros, again, like I mentioned, sleep support, it's a calming effect. Cons, it doesn't knock everyone out, and if you take too much, it can cause digestive issues. So just be careful on how much you're taking, check the label, check the recommended dosage, and make your own decisions from there, or speak to a doctor. Magnesium doesn't necessarily sedate you, it just removes the friction from sleep. Clinical trials suggest magnesium may improve sleep efficiency, latency, and subjective insomnia severity in some studies, even though results are not universally consistent. Magnesium plays a role in over 300 biochemical reactions, including those linked to nervous system regulation and sleep hormone pathways. For example, melatonin modulation, which is obviously something that helps with sleep. Magnesium isn't a sedative, it's a biochemical cofactor that smooths out the signals that keep you in sleep mode. I'm someone that's always struggled with sleep. When I take magnesium bisglycinate, I seem to sleep better. If it's a placebo, if it's not doing anything, it's still doing something, even if it's not. Another one, zinc. There are conditional evidence on this one. It can help with testosterone support, if deficient, and immune function. The doses are 15 to 30 milligrams a day. Be careful with stacking with things like ZMA and multivitamins, which is what I do. I'm probably actually going to get rid of the ZMA. I take a multivitamin. We will get onto these. I've got them further down in the list, but I will explain that in a minute. Benefits most seen in deficient individuals, which is obviously going to be the case with pretty much anything. If you're deficient in something and then all of a sudden you start taking something to get you back to where you should be, that's where you're going to notice the most difference. Overuse can impair copper absorption. It's useful if you're training hard and sweating a lot. Easy to overdose chronically, and diminishing returns if replete. Zinc helps if you're low. It doesn't turn you into a superhero if you are already sufficient. Zinc's essential for immune functions and protein synthesis. Deficiencies are linked to worse outcomes in viral illnesses and inflammation. And people who train hard and sweat may have elevated zinc needs, but the benefits are most obvious in someone who's deficient. Too much zinc can impair your copper absorption, and zinc helps if you're actually low on it. Otherwise, it doesn't boost performance for the already replete. So, again, the only way you're going to find out these things is via a blood test. So, before you go spending money on things, don't. Just do your research, potentially get a blood test. If you can test for zinc, go for it. I don't know who does test for zinc. You might have to go private, but the reason why I was taking it was testosterone support. I'm someone that is putting a lot of work into my training. I want to maintain my testosterone levels. Like I say, I did a test last year. I had pretty good testosterone. I think I was like 827. And for full clarity, that is completely natural. I've never taken any sort of exogenous hormones or anything like that. So yeah, that's where I want to keep myself. It's a good high amount of testosterone and where I probably should be for the age of 29. Number 7, this is probably one of the first sort of tablet supplementations most people go for, and that is a multivitamin. I specifically take the Alpha Men My Protein multivitamin, and this is just because it's meant to be designed more to cater for men's needs of supplementation. It's essentially a safety net. It's a nutritional insurance, and it just covers the micronutrient gaps. The labeled dose should be fine for pretty much anyone. Large studies show that there is a limited performance benefit, but this isn't the reason why I'm taking it. It is just a safety net. If I'm not getting certain micronutrients in my diet, then this fills the gaps. If you're not deficient in micronutrients, you will just basically urinate them back out. It can sound like a bit of a waste of money, but they're really cheap again. It's convenience, it's peace of mind. It's just there to just fill in any gaps that you've got in your diet. Again, you're not going to know whether you are deficient unless you've taken like multiple blood tests over a period of time to see whether your diet's having an impact. They can often be underdosed and create a false sense of security. They don't optimize your health, they just reduce the risk of deficiency. Major long-term studies have found that daily multivitamins do not reduce mortality in generally healthy adults. In one large cohort, multivitamin use did not extend life and was associated with slightly higher mortality, possibly due to confounding and nutrient interactions. Multivitamins can be useful to prevent deficiencies, but there is limited evidence to improve performance or key health outcomes in young, healthy people. So, yeah, like I say, I'm not taking this for any sort of performance benefit. It is just to fill a gap in my diet. Number 8, bit of a random one now, and one that will probably be falling off my list of supplementation. This is glucosamine and chondroitin, which there is low to moderate efficacy and mixed evidence on. And the reason why you've probably never heard of it is because you're probably a young, fit adult. I have got the knee of like an 80-year-old man. I've got no ACL. I've got no meniscus. The reason why I take glucosamine and chondroitin is because there is some small evidence that it helps with joint health and potential pain reduction. Apparently, there's some benefits in osteoarthritis, less for prevention. Some people swear by it, but it's not going to rebuild cartilage. It's apparently got some slow and subtle effects. If it works, you notice that after months, not days. I've taken it a couple of different times, like over the years, never really noticed the difference. I think my knee is just what it is now. The evidence is very mixed. Some meta-analysis shows modest symptomatic improvements, others find minimal benefits compared to placebo. The benefits tend to show up in people with existing osteoarthritis pain, not as preventative joint rebuild strategy. So it might help some people with joint discomfort, but it's not a miracle joint repair formula. Now, I don't think I've noticed any difference. My knee doesn't feel any less painful, any less clicky. There doesn't seem to be a difference. So yeah, I'll probably get rid of this one. If I'm honest, not one that you've got to worry about. Number 9, ZMA. So this is zinc, magnesium, and B6. So this is sort of marketed as sleep and testosterone support, which we've obviously spoke about with the zinc and the magnesium separately. But there's not a lot of evidence beyond creatine deficiencies with the combination of the three. It overlaps with the zinc and magnesium I already take, and the marketing is probably stronger than the data on this one. It isn't useless, it's just unnecessary if I'm already supplementing something else. There's limited specific evidence that ZMA provides performance or recovery benefits beyond what zinc and magnesium individually can offer. So they do have roles themselves in physiology, but ZMA as a branded combo hasn't shown large effects in good trials. So any benefits from ZMA likely comes from individual micronutrients, not the branded combo itself. So again, I need to look at total doses of zinc and magnesium I'm taking in during the day. I'm probably overdoing it a little bit by adding this one in as well. I think I got this one because probably zinc was sold out at some point, and then I got zinc as well, and I've just started taking both of them. But yeah, it's not something that I will be having in the future. Number 10. This isn't, I guess it is a supplement, and it is Neutonic. Yeah, there's not a lot of like massive randomized control evidence on Neutonic itself. There is on all of the ingredients that are in it. So there is a lot of research-backed nootropic ingredients. I am, partnered, affiliated with Neutonic. They dropped me a message, asked me if I wanted to be a part of it, and I am. So if you do want to get some Neutonic, use the code George10 at checkout. This isn't a paid promotion. I do get a little bit of commission off the back of any orders that you do place. And the only reason I'm saying that again is because I did start taking this way before I was even affiliated with the company. I really do like the flavor of it, but I also like the effect it has on my focus and things like that. It is branded as the world's first productivity drink. This is the strawberry lemonade flavor. It is potentially my favorite flavor. To be honest, I like all of the flavors that they do, but I have one of these every time I do a podcast for the focus, so I can stay on my game, whether it's on my own, whether it's with a guest. Most of the time I'm doing the podcast in the evening after a full day of work. So one, I am shattered. The last thing I want to do is speak right down the barrel of the camera, especially when I'm on my own. It's a very weird place to be. Try it. It's harder than you think. Yeah, it is. It's got the stimulation of 120 milligrams of caffeine, natural caffeine, apparently. I wouldn't say this is something that you would take every single day. Like I say, I take it situationally. So when I'm doing a podcast, I sometimes take it if I've got like a lot of editing to do and I just need to focus and just dial in. I'm not going to go into sort of all of the nootropics in there. There is plenty of research out there. If you go onto Neutonic's website, they've got a whole page explaining why each thing is in. And yeah, there's no necessary like huge trial on the product itself, but there is on all of the ingredients in there. So you've got things like cognizin, rhodiola rosea, panax ginseng, L-theanine. L-theanine helps sort of smooth out the caffeine curve. So if you're someone that can metabolize caffeine really quickly, you will get this really big, sharp upturn in your sort of focus, your alertness. But if you metabolize it really quickly, that comes crashing down very quickly. Whereas L-theanine hopefully smooths that out a little bit. And I do notice the difference. I'm not just saying that because I want you to go and use my code. I couldn't care less if you use my code or not. It would be nice, but I take this regardless. I notice a difference. So this will be one that stays for the long run. So yeah, quite a few different types of supplementation there. You may take other ones. If you do, let me know in the comments what else you're taking. Love to know what other people take, whether it's just me taking a cocktail of tablets in the morning or in the evening. But yeah, I hope that helps if you are struggling where to start. If you are, like I say, the ones that I would go for, creatine. I would then also get Impact Whey Isolate. I like chocolate smooth, so every single day for pretty much the last 5-6 years, I've had Shreddies and a chocolate smooth Impact Whey Isolate protein shake over the top of it. I now can't eat cereal with just milk. It tastes weird. It tastes really bland. I can't explain it. It's weird. If you're in the UK or just a place where you don't get a lot of sun, or someone that, I don't know, works night shifts so that you're sleeping all day and don't get to see sunlight, vitamin D and vitamin K2, you'll notice hopefully a big difference in things like mood. After that, it's all very subjective. I wouldn't say they're necessary at all. Most of the time I'm taking them is because they're a safety net, and that's about it. So if you do want to reach out, let me know. I just want to make it clear that this episode is not giving you advice to go and take all of this stuff. Like I've mentioned earlier in the podcast, consult with a doctor, do some research yourself, check the dosage, get a blood test, and see where you're at, because you might not even need to take some of these things. But things like creatine, protein powder, and vitamin D and K2, I would suggest looking into them more than the other ones, because they're the ones where you're going to see the most bang for your buck. If you think this episode has helped you, send it on to a friend that may help too. If you've enjoyed this episode, drop a like. If you're new, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.